Marcus O'Reilly has drilled keepsake mori, an indication of our mortality, considering demise can free and motivate us, assisting us with zeroing in on the main thing. 12. Experience consistently without limit. Recall that you could leave life at the present time. Let this reality decide your activities, considerations, and words. Live with reason and appreciation. In the event that you've come to this point, you're on the way to change. Remark: I'm a renewed individual to impart your excursion to us. On the off chance that you found this video edifying, share it with a companion who could profit from these old illustrations. We should spread the insight of the Stoics and embrace a more significant and satisfying life. Much obliged to you for watching. In this day and age, feelings are continuously running high. Outrage, tension, disdain, contempt, envy, lethargy. They are all over the place. So how might we track down a place of refuge? Where could we at any point get a grip on our feelings? So follow this excursion with us, and we should see through emotionlessness how to dominate our feelings and face life's misfortunes. Presently, how about we take a gander at 7 key Stoic illustrations for managing these feelings with the goal that we foster an unfaltering person. Prior to continuing on toward the primary point, ensure you've bought into the feed so you can get a day-to-day portion of indifferent insight and not pass up any extraordinary information. Presently we should begin. Example 1. Inquire as to whether this will be significant in 5 years' time. Life is loaded with minutes that put us under a magnifying glass. Testing our patience, versatility, and perspective from little bothers, for example, allowing the way to key drop no longer any of our concern to additional significant difficulties, for example, conflicts with those we love. Our day is loaded with circumstances that excite various feelings seemingly out of the blue. It's not difficult to get snatched up by prompt feelings, delays, basic remarks, or even a failed to remember birthday can seem like unfavorable emergencies. How? One strong inquiry can have an impact on our point of view and bring clearness. Will this matter in 5 years' time? This straightforward yet significant inquiry behaves like a psychological time machine, bringing us into the future and permitting us to glance back right now. We can get a superior feeling of what's in question and whether it truly matters in the long-distance race of life. Out of nowhere, those furious contentions or botched open doors appear to be changed. They don't make the similar end result. A large portion of the things that concern us today will become immaterial in the greatest story of our lives. Nearly every one of them will be decreased to inconsequentiality. Recollect the difficulties and concerns you had quite a while back. What number of them actually have the slightest bit of pertinence today? What number have been crushed by time? New encounters, learning, and recollections? This acknowledgement can be both lowering and freeing. It likewise permits you to investigate sympathy for other people, since regardless of whether something basic has disturbed you, perhaps it wasn't implied in a not-so-great kind of way. Posing this inquiry consistently assists us with focusing on our interests. It assists us with recognizing transient deterrents and extensive issues. For instance, albeit a troublesome day at work might appear to be overpowering at the time in the excellent plan of life, it's only one day in a long vocation crossing quite a few years. This point of view likewise reinforces our capacity to survive and adjust despite conditions when we face difficulties. Remembering the higher perspective can lessen nervousness and assist us with finding the arrangements we really want as opposed to stalling out on the ongoing issue. We can foster techniques, adjust and push ahead, realizing that time ordinarily brings clearness and goals. Be that as it may, this approach doesn't simply limit our concerns. It additionally urges us to zero in energy on what is really significant by closing out all the garbage that comes into our brains. We have greater lucidity to ponder what's great as well as not feeling so wrecked. Assuming we believe our activities and decisions should have an enduring effect, it is fundamental to put resources into connections, self-improvement and educational encounters that stay significant extra time. Recollect that they should be impenetrable to time and not something short-lived. In light of the fact that in a world that frequently esteems promptness, the inquiry "will this matter in 5 years' time" goes about as an aid that guides us in the quest for an existence with importance, viewpoint and genuine serenity. Looking at the situation objectively, all that of significant worth on the planet carves out opportunity to finish. The development of a tree, the pregnancy of a child, a degree. They all have their huge qualities and find opportunity to finish and have an enduring effect by routinely posing ourselves this inquiry. We can confront life's predicaments with beauty, guaranteeing that our energy and center is coordinated towards the main thing. Sissi Max Apollon Poirier Portfolio in a look to the body's electorate, who surged your repository in the season records. Max. So the month of Boyflex. Force an inquiry, conceiving an offspring as an answer. Contribute blog. The financial backer is a blonde of a little intermittent G and Jacobs. Sweat tones. Every one of the dispositive summarizes of top gravity. Leave this vein. It has a basic taste in Koto Obama. So from the Vista ENG. Max Pushpa. Obviously, he was a video. Great homicide. So dumb know about. Pay attention to rehearse separation in reality as we know it, where we frequently experience an out-of-control thrill ride of sentiments. Rehearsing separation can appear to be somewhat abnormal, or even insensitive. In any case, we should investigate what it truly means and how strong this training is. Separation doesn't include smothering feelings or becoming not interested in our general surroundings. It's tied in with supporting a decent view, a quietness amidst strife, envision having the option to notice occasions, circumstances and, surprisingly, your own sentiments without being overpowered by them. Utilize the prospect of having an external view, for instance, contemplate the last time you watched an intriguing film. You've encountered snapshots of pressure, energy, perhaps misery. As you engaged in the story, a piece of you was consistently mindful that it was only a film and not your world. You didn't head out to help the legend or solace the person who was crying. You recently watched, felt, however remained in your seat. This is what the act of separation implies, being profoundly associated with life, encountering every one of the feelings, yet in addition knowing when to remain in the film seat of your brain, watching without losing all sense of direction in the show. This approach comes as a help in our cutting-edge age, loaded up with consistent data consistently. We are assaulted with news and notices on the off chance that we responded seriously to each snippet of data, we would be continually depleted. Detachment offers us a sort of security, an approach to connecting with the world in a more reasonable and adjusted manner. This viewpoint likewise assists us with seeing that you are not your considerations, but rather their observer. You feel insight and even inquiry yourself, yet you are not it. You are the onlooker. Balance assumes a significant part in our connections, be they companionships or relationships. We've all been in circumstances where discussions have become tense. Utilize the possibility of having an external view, for instance, ponder the last time you watched an astonishing film. You've encountered snapshots of pressure, fervor, perhaps misery. As you engaged in the story, a piece of you was consistently mindful that it was only a film and not your existence. You didn't head out to help the legend or solace the person who was crying. You recently watched, felt, however remained in your seat. This is what the act of separation implies, being profoundly associated with life, encountering every one of the feelings, yet additionally knowing when to remain in the film seat of your psyche, watching without losing all sense of direction in the show. This approach comes as a help in our cutting-edge age, loaded up with steady data consistently. We are barraged with news and warnings. In the event that we responded strongly to each snippet of data, we would be continually depleted. Detachment offers us a sort of security, an approach to connecting with the world in a more economical and adjusted manner. This point of view likewise assists us with seeing that you are not your considerations, but rather their onlooker. You feel insight and even inquiry yourself, yet you are not it. You are the spectator. Control assumes a significant part in our connections, be they kinships or relationships. We've all been in circumstances where discussions have become tense and false impressions have emerged. At these times, rehearsing balance can have the effect between a productive conversation and a harming one. It permits us to listen all the more successfully and fair-mindedly to answer, as opposed to respond, and to confront clashes with understanding and style. Developing separation starts with self-information. Once more, this separation is you in the cinema feeling what the person in the film is going through. Consistently checking in with ourselves, perceiving what triggers us sincerely, and understanding our examples makes a space among boost and reaction. In this space we have the opportunity to pick our responses, to act with reason as opposed to impulsivity. So we should be mindful here of judgment, since it is what impacts us to take our activity. Furthermore, in spite of the fact that it might seem like isolating from the beneficial things and joys throughout everyday life, separation really makes them significantly more important. By not turning out to be excessively joined to results, we can give ourselves completely to the excursion, relishing each experience without the steady apprehension about misfortune or change. Rehearsing separation is tracking down balance in an always impacting world. Allah guides us towards internal serenity, directing us through life's difficulties with style. By taking on this training, we enhance our own lives, yet in addition transmit a feeling of quietness and clearness to people around us. Note that when you're more sane, it's simpler to assist those you with cherishing in a basic manner as opposed to offering useless perspectives that could exacerbate things. Separation makes the solace expected to have a straightforward discussion. So you assist the individual with opening dependent upon you sincerely, which is significant and sadly a unique case nowadays. Illustration 3, the obstruction is the way. Marcus Aurelius previously said the obstruction is how our reality is brimming with difficulties going from individual mishaps to worldwide emergencies. It very well may be a basic postponement for a physical checkup or even a worldwide pandemic. Impediments are an inborn piece of the human experience, somehow, they will be capable. In any case, consider the possibility that as opposed to seeing these difficulties as weights, we considered them to be open doors in mask. The unemotional scholars offered a strong point of view on misfortune. That's what they trusted in spite of the fact that we don't necessarily in every case have command over the occasions that happen, we really do have command over how we decipher them and how we respond to them. This change in outlook changes difficulties from straightforward misfortunes into important examples. They didn't say that hindrances get simpler with time, however that we get more grounded with them. A statement from the unemotional rationalist Marcus Aurelius summarizes this thought well: the impediment to activity turns into the way to activity, what is standing out turns into the way. This implies that each hindrance, each test, can drive us forward on the off chance that we decide to consider it to be a chance for development. It will not be simple, yet it will make you more grounded. Envision a tree filling an unpleasant, rough landscape as opposed to being blocked by rocks and troublesome soil. The tree grows profound roots that connect, looking for water and supplements. It adjusts to the difficult climate and extra time. The roots make light of a significant job in breaking the stones and making ripe soil around it. Along these lines, the stones and troublesome soil which seemed, by all accounts, to be hindrances become specialists of change that add to the tree's sound development. Essentially, in our lives, difficulties can modify our direction, frequently prompting results we could never have anticipated. For instance, the Chapter 11 of a venture, albeit at first excruciating, can open ways to a more current and better endeavor. Abilities upgrade, or even the chance to open an establishment in like manner. A relationship that didn't work out can be the fuel for self-awareness, self-information, and more profound, more significant future connections. This unemotional vision likewise reinforces our capacity to manage misfortune. Whenever we begin to see difficulties as any open doors for development, we become more adaptable and ready to deal with tough spots directly, as opposed to asking ourselves, for what reason is this incident to me? We begin to ask ourselves, what might I at any point gain from this? How might this experience add to my turn of events? How might I become more grounded accordingly? This doesn't imply that we ought to search for issues or overlook certifiable troubles. It implies perceiving that in each test there is an open door, tapping on our entryway by sustaining this open door with a hopeful viewpoint, persistence, and assurance. We can transform deterrence into venturing stones that lead us towards development, insight, and individual satisfaction. Since, in such a case that we see it as a setback, we will presumably have the most potential negative view. This will make us become deadened in right now, and we won't go about as we ought to have done. So consider the hindrances to be the way. Illustration 4. Think before you respond. In this day and age, overwhelmed by innovation and the craving for moment replies, the act of reflection can appear to be obsolete or even superfluous. Nonetheless, it is unequivocally this capacity to pause and contemplate that can be our partner in a world that compels us to settle on fast choices. Consider the counter circumstances where we are confronted with decisions, both of all shapes and sizes, from choosing a dish in an eatery to settling on a vocation. The range of choices is immense, yet in addition to the significance of these decisions counts. It's the way we approach them. We should take a gander at a typical circumstance getting a message that makes us anxious. Maybe it's a partner scrutinizing our work or a companion offering an unconstrained remark. The programmed response can be protection or disturbance. These are typically the feelings we feel most. Imagine a scenario where, rather than nosediving into these huge serious feelings, you made a stride back. Thusly, you're not quelling your feelings, you're permitting them a space to be perceived. This act of reflection isn't about inactively tolerating all that or staying away from things. It's about effectively captivating with your viewpoints and sentiments. It includes asking yourself inquiries. For what reason would I say I was so impacted by that remark? What convictions or previous encounters or affecting how I feel presently is my quick response being molded by the ongoing circumstance or by what I've encountered before? At the point when we experience these feelings of fury, it's typically in light of the fact that they hurt our self-image, and wondering why gives us more prominent mental lucidity to have the option to see it from an external perspective, assuming it appears to be legit. Likewise, reflection before response is an apparatus that creates sympathy by giving yourself time. You can likewise consider others' viewpoints. Maybe that partner is having a distressing day, or that companion didn't understand the effect of the words you said. By reflecting, we make the way for understanding for ourselves, yet for individuals around us in connections. This training is essential. What number of mistaken assumptions could be stayed away from on the off chance that we required some investment to reflect prior to making any move absolutely out of response? What number of connections could be reinforced as opposed to annihilated? It's at these times of reflection that we track down clearness, compassion, and association. Besides, in the expert climate, the capacity to stop and reflect is of extraordinary worth. Pioneers who reflect prior to settling on choices are for the most part more regarded and compelling, as well as driving their groups better. They are viewed as chivalrous, smart, and savvy. Their choices in light of reflection frequently endure for an extremely long period in a world that frequently appears to move excessively fast. The demonstration of reflection turns into a type of opposition, a quiet yet strong statement that we won't be cleared away by the surge of quickness. This doesn't appear to happen frequently, yet this is on the grounds that our brains are so centered around the buzzing about of daily existence that we don't understand how hurried we are with regards to deciding. This is a promise to ourselves, to our prosperity, and to the nature of our communications with the world. Fundamentally, thinking prior to acting goes past a basic practice. It's a way of thinking, a way of life that values profundity over triviality, understanding over reactivity, and significant connections over fleeting experiences. An inward excursion significantly affects how we connect with our general surroundings, forming our responses, yet additionally the manner in which we put together our lives. The issue with overreactivity is that it likewise makes us progressively restless, which keeps us from thinking obviously and tranquilly. In this day and age, this additionally originates from online entertainment and the unremitting craving for curiosity. However, this isn't great. The Stoics protected their brains well indeed so as not to become responsive and restless. For this, I've passed on a connection in the principal remark to assist you with managing this tension as the Stoics did. Example 5. Keep an unemotional journal. The activity of keeping a journal has been esteemed in all societies and verifiable periods, as a record of occasions, yet as a device for reflection, development, and individual edification. The Stoics, with their accentuation on mindfulness and individual turn of events, additionally embraced this training. An unemotional journal goes past recording day-to-day occasions. It fills in as a space for thought and inward discourse, for looking at feelings, decisions, and reactions. It is where the outside world meets the inward world, where occasions meet individual qualities and convictions. It is the discussion where we ponder our activities and contemplations. The journal is the judgment-free space to survey how our brain articulates itself, thoughts, and acts. Contemplate finishing your day not just by describing the occasions that occurred, yet in addition by breaking down how you responded. For what reason did you feel irritated about a basic occasion? What set off an explosion of euphoria during a commonplace undertaking? By looking at our day in this manner, we start to figure out the examples of our reasoning and feelings. We start to distinguish the triggers that influence our perspective, the qualities that guide our decisions, and the propensities that shape our daily practice. This makes it more straightforward for us to picture what our cerebrum considers great and what it considers to be awful. Marcus Aurelius, Roman ruler and indifferent thinker, kept a journal that we know today as Reflections. It wasn't expected for distribution. It was an individual discourse, a space where he found his orientation, reviewed unemotional standards, and confronted life's difficulties with shrewdness. Through his entrances we see a man confronting his commitments, controlling his feelings, and looking for his spot in the universe. Notwithstanding, you don't need to be ahead to receive the rewards of an emotionless journal. It's much more straightforward than being the Roman ruler, truth be told. As Marcus Aurelius could mishandle his cash and ability to squander his life hesitating with different ladies, eating fiercely, and watching ruthless games in the stadium, even in our contemporary life, loaded with interruptions and a consistent torrential slide of data, pausing for a minute for thoughtfulness turns out to be much more imperative. A short day-to-day assessment, a custom that secures us getting clearness the middle of strife over the long run. This training can uncover significant bits of knowledge. You might see that specific circumstances produce weight on a repetitive premise, driving you to move toward them more successfully or to have a significant impact on your viewpoint. You might find that specific practices, for example, appreciation or care, decidedly affect your mindset and worldview. The examples that arise can go about as an aid for self-improvement as well as giving knowledge, and in different journal advances liability by committing ourselves to day-to-day reflection. We assume a sense of ownership with our responses and decisions. It turns out to be more difficult to disregard repeating mix-ups or neglect misconceptions. All things being equal, we are urged to learn, adjust, and develop. What's more, accept me, it's a lot simpler to get this wisdom by putting everything written down in light of the fact that our brain alone is definitely not a solid storyteller. So assuming we record what truly happened that day, it's much more clear and more honest than if we just kept it in our memory overall. Keeping an indifferent journal resembles having a shrewd and unbiased companion close by, consistently prepared to tune in, reflect and exhort. It addresses a guarantee to self-improvement, a quest for self-information and for a daily existence that is on top of our qualities and standards. Illustration 6 Realized what is inside your control. Have you at any point wound up in the center of life's calamities, not really rainstorms, typhoons or tremors, yet life's catastrophes? These are startling circumstances, disillusionments or unexpected changes. The old emotionless rationalists of Greece and Rome have a significant illustration that traditionalists support amidst these calamities called the polarity of control. Envision what is happening. You're going out traveling. You gather every one of your sacks, you make an agenda of everything so you remember everything except similarly as you're going to load onto, the flight is dropped in light of a tempest. For this situation, you have zero power over the climate or the aircraft's choices, regardless of the amount you demand. Be that as it may, your response to this cancellation is completely dependent upon you. Presently you need to contemplate what you will do. You can whimper, protest and even yell at the carrier staff. Or on the other hand you could quiet down and just hold back to get the following flight. Epictetus, an indifferent logician who went from being a captive to one of the most persuasive masterminds of his time, summarized it essentially some things are influenced quite a bit by and others are not. Sounds simple, right? However, in this effortlessness lies a significant insight fit for changing our lives, which we frequently don't stop to ponder. Consistently we face different circumstances, a few we can shape, for example, our schedules, the perusing we pick and the kinships we develop. Nonetheless, numerous things are past our span. The political scene, the changing swapping scale, the activities of others, the progression of time and indeed, the climate. Furthermore, here's the fascinating point. The Stoics accept that our prosperity doesn't rely upon these outer occasions, however on the manner in which we decipher and answer them. It's not the actual occasion, but rather our judgment of the occasion that causes our feelings and these decisions cause us to likewise respond. So it's anything but an occasion and a judgment, but instead an occasion, a judgment about that occasion and a response. This response comes from the feelings we develop alongside that judgment. Consider when you confronted an obstruction, for example, the disappointment of the organization you began with all your perspiration and exertion. At that point, it presumably appeared to be an immense frustration, a loss that left you feeling down. In any case, after some time, you might have understood that it ended up being something positive, requiring you to a surprisingly better and open door or flaunting your self-awareness and flexibility. So assuming the following time you start another business, you'll be more grounded than the initial time. You'll have more insight, and you'll presumably know how to handle the obstructions you needed to confront the initial time. Notwithstanding, how might we apply this reasoning by start by posing yourself the accompanying inquiry. Could I at any point control what is happening, assuming the response is indeed, make a move? In the event that the response is no, it's an opportunity to rehearse acknowledgement and the capacity to adjust. Also, this is something that everything people can do. The Stoics had this as a main priority since this is human development. Possibly we adjust or we pass on. What's more, in this present circumstance you won't pass on, yet adjust. At the point when we really get it and consolidate this rule, we can relinquish stresses that aren't beneficial. We comprehend that they're simply attempting to occupy room in our psyches without seeming to be okay. When we comprehend this, we can cruise through existence with genuine serenity, mindful that in spite of the fact that we have zero control over the waves, we can direct our boat in a world that frequently appears to be confounding. Control guides us like a beacon. It reminds us to zero in our endeavors on the main thing and to acknowledge the peacefulness that a few things are just unchangeable as far as we might be concerned. So anything that something you believe is awful occurs, ask yourself, is this inside my control? In the event that the response is no, nothing remains to be stressed over. Assuming the response is indeed, ask yourself, is there anything I can do to change this? On the off chance that the response is indeed extraordinary, you have the ability to act. Yet, assuming that the response is no, relax, in light of the fact that you have no impact over it. Example 7. Practice appreciation inside the immense scene of human feelings. Appreciation stands apart as a significant brilliant string, sewing together snapshots of euphoria, satisfaction and viewpoint in our excursion. In spite of the fact that an inclination can emerge unexpectedly, the Stoics push the cognizant act of appreciation, making it an everyday custom to secure oneself in the present and value life's gifts. Appreciation goes past basically saying much obliged. It is a significant acknowledgement of the incalculable impacts, minutes and individuals that enhance our reality. It's tied in with valuing the magnificence in regular daily existence, for example, the basic things, whether it's a hot shower or food on the plate, as well as valuing the illustrations gained from difficulties and the vaporous idea of each experience, which makes it even more valuable. Seneca, a broadly perceived emotionless thinker, once said genuine satisfaction comprises in partaking in the present without tensely contingent upon what's in store. This expression catches the pith of appreciation, being profoundly present, seriously esteeming each second, insight and collaboration. This view of the present is the essential demonstration of aloofness, since it is the main second wherein we have control. Consider the basic joys we as a rule underestimate: the reward of the rule on a hot day, a bird singing, a gathering with friends and family, or even the water we drink when we're parched. At the point when we pause for a minute to perceive and value these minutes, we increment their excellence and importance in our lives. The act of appreciation likewise fills in as an offset to the human propensity to zero in on the thing is missing, out of line, unfulfilled longings or vulnerabilities about what's to come. This doesn't mean being uninvolved and not yearning for more, yet rather not purposely needing more without valuing what you as of now stand out to what we have as opposed to zeroing in on what we need. We develop satisfaction, decrease sensations of jealousy or disdain, and further develop our general prosperity. This stimulates our feeling of mankind and our social climate as it delivers a sensation of delight throughout everyday life. Furthermore, you might be thinking about how to begin rehearsing appreciation. It tends to be essentially as straightforward as posting 5 things you feel thankful for when you start or end your day. In any case, rehearsing appreciation goes past making records. It includes a significant have an impact on in context and the manner in which we see life over the long haul. This routine can change your perspective, making you more mindful of life's favors and better ready to confront difficulties with flexibility. Appreciation not just assists us with perceiving the beneficial things we as of now have, yet in addition trains us to track down esteem in regular encounters, from a delightful nightfall to a cordial signal from an outsider. Also, appreciation reinforces connections by offering thanks for the thoughtful gestures, backing, or adore we get from others. We fortify bonds, cultivate shared regard, and make a positive input circle in light of generosity and love. Connections where appreciation is polished will generally be more amicable and versatile. Like an undetectable tie ties individuals together, making them bound to help each other in the midst of hardship. In a world that frequently helps us to remember more material merchandise, more accomplishments, more cravings, appreciation tenderly helps us to remember the overflow that as of now exists in our lives. It makes a difference. Us develop a feeling of satisfaction and appreciation for what we have, as opposed to continuously longing for what we don't have. It is an encouragement to commend the present, embrace existence with hearts loaded with appreciation, and push ahead on the excursion of presence, perceiving that where it counts the lavishness of life is found in the easily overlooked details and in the significant associations we share with one another. The act of appreciation in this way welcomes us to live more completely, deliberately, and mercifully, changing our own lives, yet in addition our general surroundings. Toward the finish of every day, we can perceive how appreciation assists us with controlling our feelings to an ever-increasing extent. Also, to be areas of strength for amazingly not be shaken by what might come our direction. There are the indifferent mysteries to becoming sure at this point. Click on the video on the screen and watch it now.